Reish Lamed Dalet Hilchos Nadarim. We are continuing today with Mem Dalet, Seif Mem Dalet. Really, Mem Gimel and Mem Dalet go quite together. Just a quick question. We learned before to do hafara, right? If you want to do hafara, to annul or revoke the neder, what do you say? Mufar, we read Mufar 3 times, Batel 3 times. What happens if you only said it once? Does it matter if you say it 3 times? So we learned also by Hataras Nadarim, where we said Machol, we also said 3 times over there. And halacha is the same, it's simple, you only need to say it once. Midin, the Din Torah is you only have to say it once. And Midarabanan, they only said you should say it 3 times, like to be mechazek the inyan, to strengthen, make it a little bit more, exciting. Instead of just saying it once, you say it 3 times, and Melash Chazaka, right? We have Makudash for the, well, that's twice. But whatever, you do it more than once, but that's only Darabanan. Fine. And even Midarabanan, it's fine if you only say it once. Okay. Now, where we are, okay. Amar la bevas achas, Mem Dalet, you say to her one time, Kiyam umufar lechi. You are Kiyam and Mufar. I am Mekayim and I'm doing Hafara at the same time. Ein kan lo hakama velo hafara. If you say both at the same time, and we're assuming the case is, you have in mind for it to both chal at the same time. Don't ask me how, but that's the case. So nothing is chal, and you can still do hakama, you can still do hafara. You can still uphold it or revoke it. It makes no difference. If the case is you meant to correct yourself, then of course the correction toch kadei dibur works. And if you had no intention to say it at all and it was a complete mistake, Mistama didn't count the first time. Okay. The Haga is Osha Amarla Kiyam Lechi Umufar Bevas Achas. Or you say the expression Kiyam and Mufar also. As long as you say it, but it's Chal at the same time, you didn't say anything. That's how it's a question in the Gemara, there's an answer in the Gemara. So that's how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. But Harambam, he points out, he understands the Gemara a little differently. And the maskana there is, no, it's Harei Zekiyam. It's as if you were Makayim. That's the halacha of the Shulchan Aruch, is you can still go back. Mem Hey. Amar la, he says to her, Kiyam lechi hayom, Harei Zekiyam la'olam. If now, Mem Hey to Mem Chet, just know those are 4 cases lined up in the Gemara, where they're all questions with no real answer. The Gemara is not sure what the answer is. They're all questions. And so the question is, how do you paskin with one after another? And it goes, Im Tim Selomar, V'chule. So in general, without getting too much into it, the Rosh paskins by all of them, it's a suffix, so you go l'chumra, and they all have a din of a suffix. Generally, we say they're makuyam, you can't undo them. The Rambam holds by all of them there is an answer, and that they're all makuyam, except the last one was his general rule is when you say v'im tim salomar, that's coming to answer to remove the suffix. That's just his general mahalik, and since the last of the ones doesn't have v'im tim salomar, that's the only one that's left with a suffix. So let's just read it inside in the Shulchan Aruch. So the first case we just had was, you say to her, you're being Makayim it, but you didn't say just, I'm upholding it, period. You added the word for today. So the question is, does that mean you're really doing a kiyum for today, but a hafara for the future? The answer is no. We say it's a kiyum. Fine. Mem vav, amar la mufar lechi lamachar, eino mufar. Now, what if he tells her that I'm doing, or again, she doesn't have to be there when you do it, but whatever. Tell her, you're mufar. You say it's 3 times, 1 time we said, okay. But you add the words, lamachar for tomorrow. So what does that do? Does that mean by saying that, you are also, we say by definition, you are also saying you're makayim it for today? So that's question how we paskin. The Gemara has the question. Take it back. The Shulchan Aruch says, Eino mufar. Then, if you say mufar for tomorrow, then you can no longer do then that doesn't count for hafara for tomorrow. And also, you have to, but here you are saying it today, but you're making it to be chal for tomorrow. So that's the question in the Gemara, or part of the question. I think the main question though is not that can you not do that. I don't know if the Gemara has a problem with that. It's that when you say only for tomorrow, I don't know if we have a technicality problem because you're doing the hafara today. We learned already you are allowed to do kiyum and hafara b'miktsas. You can choose. You can cut. You can cut and shape. What am I trying to say? You can pick and choose on the day for what it counts for. I am assuming it also, but ayin sham in the Gemara. I'm assuming that's not the problem. The real issue is when you're doing that for tomorrow. In this case, does that mean you're being Mekayim for today? But okay, I hear. Okay, so then the Haggah. So it says Eino Mufar, and if it says Eino Mufar, what does that mean? You didn't do an hafara. Can you still do kiyum? Can you still do hafara? According to the Shulchan Aruch. So that, listen, the Rama writes, Haga, v'yesh omrim dehave kiyum. So the Rama says, and some say that's also a kiyum. By saying mufar for tomorrow, by definition, we're saying that's a kiyum for today, and that kiyum stands, and you can't do hafara tomorrow because tomorrow's too late. I'll leave your point as a question mark. But anyways, so the Rama holds by doing mufar lechi l'machar, that itself is a kiyum now, and you can't even now do hafara anymore. Even for tomorrow, it's too late, and because that's considered a proper kiyum with a period. And once you do a kiyum, you can't undo the hafara afterwards. Now, the Rama writes v'yesh omrim. So usually that means he is arguing. So he holds, the Rama presumably holds, that according to the Shulchan Aruch, it's not a hafara and it's not a kiyum, and you can still go back and do whatever you want. You can redo another hafara, you can redo another kiyum, but the Taz writes that it can't be, because it's a v'yesh omrim. He writes lodak, that the Rama wasn't correct, wasn't careful how he wrote the words, and he wasn't being medactic in his lashon. And really, there's no machlokas. The Taz points out that the Shulchan Aruch, just like the Rambam, hold that it's also a kiyum. It's not a machlokas. And the Beis Yosef says that himself. Seems to be, and the Gra writes that's what's referish in the Beis Yosef. You can look it up. It seems to be from the Rambam as well. Just interesting. The Nakudos Kesef, the Shach, he writes. It's interesting. He writes, no. The Taz lo dak, but the Rama was dak. I don't understand the Shach, but because the Beis Yosef himself agrees with the Taz. And anyways, it's a machlokas on how to understand the Shulchan Aruch. But the Beis Yosef himself, who wrote it, the Taz and the Gra are on one side against the Shach. Okay, let's go on to Mem Zayin. Amar la kiyam lechi sha'achas ve'avar hayom v'lo hafar reizeh kiyam. All right, another similar type of case, where he's Makayim it only for 1 hour. And then the day passes, and he didn't do hafara after an hour. Harei zekiyum. So the halacha is that counts as a proper kiyum. And now the real reason why he can no longer do hafara in this case is because the day passed. Like you said, you could only do hafara the same day that you find out. After the kiyum, he could have still done hafara, but he didn't. But he could have, because he only did kiyum. He specifically said, "I'm upholding it for 1 hour." When that hour happens, after that hour, he could have still done hafara. The chiddush over here, question, Gemara, the Chiddush over here is that you may have thought maybe by doing Kiyum for 1 hour, automatically that is a hafara for the second hour. We don't say that. You didn't say that, so it doesn't happen. You could say I'm Mekayim for 1 hour and then I'm doing hafara for the second hour and onward. Memchet, Amra Leikiyam Lechi Sha'achas, I'm Mekayim it for 1 hour. Ukisha'avra Sha'an, when that hour passes, Amar La Mufar, well, what I said is partially true. That's the next question. Ukisha'avra Hasha'an. Now that hour passed. A person is Mekayim for 1 hour. Okay? What happens after the hour, right? Presumably what I said is correct if you said it at one time. For the first hour, it's Kiyum, the second hour is Hafara. Again, it's a discussion, I and the Ran and others, but we'll assume that that'll work. Here you broke it up. You just said Kiyum for 1 hour. That hour passed, and now you wanted to do Hafara. You said Hafara after that hour passed. It wasn't at the same, you didn't say both sentences at the same time. Right? Because we learned you're allowed to pick and choose a little bit. But here, you did a proper Kiyum for 1 hour, period. Then the hour passes, and now you come to do Hafara. So the Gemara has a suffix. And that's and this is the final of the 4, and everybody agrees that Harei is a suffix. Unless everyone agrees it's a suffix, what's the din? So in other words, well, because once you do Hakama, it could be you can no longer do Hafara anymore. It's just like a definition, or like a klal. That there's just, that's the question. Is there such a klal in the Torah? And Chazal don't know. Once you do Hakama, in one day, on the same day, can you also do Hafara? When you're doing it, you can pick and choose. But once you did it already, if you do it could be in one day, you're only allowed to do one. You don't have the authorization to do twice. You don't have the power, the jurisdiction to do it twice. That's the suffix. So therefore, we have to treat it like maybe it was Mekuyam, and the husband can no longer do Hafara as midin suffix. If you want to undo it, she has to do it Hataras Nadarim. And that's it. And if he does do Hafara and she violates it, then she didn't violate a love. We don't punish her as if she violated a love because we don't know. Again, it's a din of a suffix in all directions. Okay, let's go on to the next halacha. Mem tet. Hamakayim nidre. Hamakayim nidre bito or ishto. Now, what happens if a man or a father, a husband, is Makayim? And now he regrets that he upheld her neder. He wants to go back in time. You could go back in time, per se. You go to the chacham, umatir lo hakamato, and you retroactively, right? We learned we're going to see this again. Generally speaking, the father and the husband, they can only sever it or revoke it from now on forward. If you go to a Beis Din or a chacham, you can revoke it. You do hatara and null it all the way from back in time lamafreya. So you can undo your hakama. Umatilo hakamato v'chozer umafrela bo bayom. And you can now do hafara, and you have to do hafara though the same day that you do the hashala, the same day that you undo the hakama, you have to do the hafara. Because the day that you undo it, that's like your day of Shmiya. That's your first day, and you only get 1 day. Now, according to this opinion, you're allowed to go back. You're allowed to, let's say on day 1, he hears about it, and he does the kiyum. A day later, a week later, whenever it happens, he can now go back and do hatara or hashala on his kiyum, on his upholding, even though it happened a week ago. And then that is his new first day. Yeah, you start the time again. That's also, if you're not sure and you want to buy yourself time, this could be a way to give yourself an extension on the Yom HaShmiyah, right? If you're not sure you want to cancel it, either you cancel it and let her make another neder in a week when the couple thinks about it, so the father and the daughter has time to think about it, or you can do kiyum today, which is like, you're not sure if you want to mevatel it. So instead of being quiet, you actually uphold it. And then you can buy time, because you can always do hatara shala on the kiyum a week, a year later. All right. Just an interesting scenario. And right, that becomes your Yom, because for that entire period of time, once you did the kiyum, you're not able to do hafara. So we had a similar situation. Whenever you're not able to do hafara, or you don't think you're allowed to do hafara, your first day doesn't start. So that's that same principle. Okay, let's finish the seif. Aval im heferla v'nicham ena yachol yishar lechacham kadesh. Right. Once you do hafara, and you wanna, you feel bad you did hafara, and you want to go back on the hafara, that's impossible. You could only go back and do hatara on a kiyum. You can't go back and do it on hafara. Okay. In other words, there's no way to restart that neder unless she repeats that neder and says it again. V'yesh omrim. Now this is a yesh omrim opinion, that she'enu yachol yeshal hakam ela b'yom hashmiya. This opinion holds, right? Presumably the first opinion is the ikar lahalacha, certainly according to the Shulchan Aruch. We'll see the Ramah's opinion momentarily. And so this opinion says it's not really a din in the kiyum, it's a din in the hafara. We learned the hafara has to be on the day you hear. And this opinion holds, you can't restart the clock, or you can't hold time in place. That time moves on. And that even though you do hashala, you undo the kiyum, so fine, you would be technically able to do hafara, because you could undo it. But if it happens on a different day, then you missed your chance. Because hafara could only be on the day then you physically hear it for the first time. You don't get this extra time extension. All right, so it's really a din in the hafara that it has to be on that same day. It's not really, the kiyum itself is not really the issue. Okay, Haga. Now the Ramah writes, V'yesh lahachamer kisvar ha'achrona. We should be machmer like this second opinion. V'yatir lachacham gamken. And therefore, assume it's too late and just do a taras nedarim with the woman herself, right? It could be the Ramah would be maker like the Shulchan Aruch as well. Presumably he would be bishat adchak if it's important and there's no way to do a taras nedarim. None? Okay, what happens if he does kiyum, and he tells her, he does it twice in a row. He's mekayim it twice in a row, saying, I'm mekayim it, I'm upholding your neder, and he says those words twice. And then he does hashala, hatara on the first time, on the first kiyum, so then that uproots the first one, but he said it twice. So now the second one is still chal, and it's still upheld. Okay, unless you do hashala on both of them. Nun aleph. Aisha shenadra v'hit pis acher benederea. Okay, so we had this similar situation when it came to hataras nedarim. So now we're here in the siman about doing hafara. So it's a little bit different. A woman makes a neder, and someone else next to her hears the neder and says, that's fun, I like that idea. Or, I need a daven for something, I want to take upon a neder, whatever it is. And and this person listening is matpis benederea. And basically, what does she say? She hears it, and she goes, Ani kamota, I'm like you, or I'm copying you, I'm going to make the same neder as you. You say some kind of a lashon like that. I'm doing the same as making the same neder as you, or shavua, or she'asra alea kikar beneder ve'achar hitpispo, or she makes a neder on this kikar, and then someone else is listening and says, I'm making the same neder on that kikar just like you, or on his thing, but just like your kikar. Ve'hefer la haba'al ha'av, and now comes the husband or the father of the first lady. So he could do a farah to her, but this other lady or man has nothing to do with this father. They're not related. So whatever the father or the husband does hafara, so of course it works for her, right? We're talking about a normal case where it works. So he muteret, but this is the chiddush of the case. The hamat pispa as, but the one who copied this lady, he's stuck. That person, man or woman, is stuck with the irser because they're not. Here, let me read it inside. Right, this is the principle we mentioned, that a father and a husband, when they do have farah, it's from here on in, it's not retroactive. So they're doing it okrim, they're uprooting it only from right now and onward. They're not uprooting it back in time. Okay? Nun bet. Nadra hi v'hit pisba haba'al o ha'av. What happens if she makes the neder? Right? She makes the neder, and the husband listens, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to copy her." The husband or the father copies his wife or daughter and says, "I'm doing the same neder just like you." So, shuv einam yecholim lahafer. They're no longer able to do hafara because they heard about it and they added themselves to her. By doing that, they have a kiyum. Obviously, you liked it because you're copying them. So we say that itself is a kiyum and can't be undone. Nadarhu vehi hitpisa of sadar. Nadarhu vehi hitpisa bo. He makes the neder. She copies him. Mefer shala v'shelo kayam. So he made it. She copies him. She copied him after. So he didn't say anything afterwards yet. So he has complete jurisdiction to do a kama or hafara on hers, and his, even if he's made for hers, he can't undo his. No man can do hafara on his own. Okay, one more. Nun dalid. Nadar le'atzmo v'hadira kemoto. He makes a neder for himself and v'hidira, and also to his wife, or to the daughter of the wife. The gamar belibo lahadira. He has in mind, he wants her to take on that neder, right? He's making the neder for him, and he's making the neder for her. The amra amen, and she says amen. So again, he chose to make the neder for her, and she answered amen. So by her answering amen, it became binding, right? A man cannot force the neder onto his wife or daughter, unless it's his own object that we're dealing with. But normally speaking, a man can never, this is important, a man can never make a neder or a shvua for his daughter or wife. They have the right to do hafara, but not to make the neder. So she answers, amen, so it's chal. And now, hareze eni yachol hafer. But because he initiated and wanted it, that's like he was makayim it, and he can no longer do hafara. V'im nadar, v'hidira derech she'ela. But if he made a neder for himself, and then he didn't make her do the neder, he asked her if she wants to make a neder. He said it as an option for her to opt in or not opt out. So it was a derech she'elalida ma beliba, to know if she wants to or not. Right? He verbalized it for her only if she wants it. He wasn't asking her to do it. So that's not a kiyum. Kegon she'amar la hatirtzi b'neder zed. Do you want to copy my neder? Liyot kamoti, to be like mine? Or lo, or not? The amra amen, and she says yes. So then it becomes binding on her because she made the neder by saying yes. But he never stated and pushed the neder on her. He asked it to her. So therefore, that's not called a kiyum. And hareza meifrala, he still has the right to do hafara. Ketzad, we're just going to say it again real quick with the explanation, with the example. Amar la, he says to her, Hareini Nazir, ve'at. I'm a Nazir, and so are you. Klomar, ve'at Nazira kamoti, and I'm making you a Nazir just like me. So again, he can't make her a Nazir, but he can state and wish for her to be a Nazir. Ve'amra amen, but if she says amen, then she's making herself a Nazir, and he wanted it, right? He just said so. So then, he's no longer can do it. That's like an automatic kiyum. Amar Allah, but if he said to her, Hareini Nazir, listen, I'm becoming a Nazir. Uma Tamri, and what do you say? At Nazira, Kamoti, you want to be a Nazir like me? So then, Ve'amra Amen, if she says yes, it's chal on her, it's binding on her. Areze Yafer, but you can still do hafara. V'im hafer la shalo, and if he does, Areze Yafer, v'im hafer la, and if he does do hafara onto hers, so then shalo, hafer la shalo, batel shezek mishatala nidro benidra. So this is interesting. Then he says, if he does, so he has jurisdiction to undo hers, and if he undoes hers, his also becomes batel, because in this case, he was tola his own neder on her neder. And Amra lo, if he told her, she told him, Hareni Nazira ve'at, I'm becoming a Nazir, and you also, I want you to be a Nazir with me, ve'amra amen, and he says yes, Eini yachol lahafer, he can no longer do it because you verbally, that counts as his kiyum.